It is the 18th of December 2023, the second last Monday of the month of December. Good evening from wherever you're watching us across the country and beyond. Welcome to the Daily Report. My name is George Maringa, as and language interpreter. At the bottom end of your screen shortly will be Catherine Simaloy. Today, we've got a rather different program, as we shall be telling you who our guests and whom we shall be speaking to on this program will be. You want to stand by for that and much more. Do stay with us, but first, our top stories. Tonight, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission and National Land Commission to visit Sondu over Turkey boundary matter.
The questions we have been asking is what really are the root causes of conflicts in Sondu.
4 people die after a terrible crash along the Eldoret-Nakuru highway.
Kulingana na gari hii, dereva alikuwa na shida kwa sababu baada ya kudiscover kwamba gari imemshinda, aliruka kutoka kwa gari na akaaja abiria, na abiria wamekufa na wengine wameumia.
Plus, a new vista for Kenya as Kenya signs landmark trade deal with EU to access its duty-free market.
We have successfully negotiated a framework for the delivery of the bottom-up economic transformation agenda by connecting our hard-working workers and entrepreneurs with transformative opportunities.
It is very important to strengthen our supply chains and diversify them with trusted, like-minded partners.
On X, I'm at George Maringa _ or you can tweet directly at TV47 News. Our SMS line is open, that is 22047 News, the hashtag Daily Report TV47, and on our SMS platform, begin with your name, where you're watching us from, and your question or comment regarding the program. Let's begin now, shall we? You will now be able to export your goods to the 27 state-rich European Union, that is EU tariff and quota-free, after the official signing of the Economic Partnership Agreement between Kenya and the EU. President Dr. William Ruto says the trade pact will ensure Kenyan goods get global recognition through entry into the European market, as the country finds means to also extend the trade agreement to encompass labor exportation. And as Hibakside now reports, the pact also came with a considerable 3.5 billion shillings investment in Kenya's green energy as the country inches closer to 100% renewable energy status.
After consultation and deliberations, finally, a pact was put in ink over areas of collaboration between Kenya and the European Union, opening up to Kenya a lucrative 18 trillion euro market.
This highly positive, historic, and transformative development is the culmination of highly committed engagements anchored by long-standing cordial ties between Kenya and the 27 countries which form the EU, both jointly and severally.
This conclusion comes after 8 years of negotiation between Kenya and the Union, a state of affairs that had 21% of Kenya's exportation in limbo.
Basically, the principle is that not only to produce here, but to add value here, and therefore to have the benefit of the whole value chain in Kenya, and then the highly specialized products go to the export.
Using this agreement, this time round, finished products also to Europe. That is the significance of this agreement, that it appreciates that we need to add value here because we need to create jobs, because this is how friends work together.
Another notch in the president's star-studded belt, well, this agreement, which also comes at a time when investor inflows are slowing over the weak currency and an unpredictable tax regime. The trade pact will now provide unlimited access for Kenyan goods to the European market as the government pushes for more manufacturing in the country.
Opportunities of increased market access and diversification of Kenya's exports to the European Union, particularly horticultural products. I also note that this trade deal includes substantial development and cooperation elements with a focus on sustainable provisions. These include climate action, environmental protection, and labor rights, amongst others.
Areas of collaboration include agrotech investments, industrial development and horticulture exportation, among others. The new agreement will push further exportation to the EU, which is among the country's largest export markets.
Today's agreement heralds a new era where Kenyan goods gain immediate and permanent duty and quota-free access to the European market. Over time, European goods will also gain preferential access to the Kenyan market.
Trade between the two countries now stands at 3.3 billion euros as at last year, a 27% increase from 2018, with the volumes still favoring the EU at 768 million euros. As Kenya finalizes its trade pact with the European Union, opening up the country to a 27-country market, it's very clear that the horticultural sector is the biggest beneficiary, with major investments being made in the green energy sector. Hibak Said for TV47 from State House, Nairobi.
Thank you, Hibak, for that. Tonight, families are in mourning and others nursing serious injuries suffered by their loved ones following a road accident in Konambaya area, Chesikaki ward in Bungoma County. Elsewhere, 4 people lost their lives in yet another crash along the Nairobi-Eldoret highway.
Madereva waendesha gari lakini wasiwa wamelewa, wasiwa wamekunywa pombe. Kulingana na gari hii, dereva alikuwa na shida kwa sababu baada ya kudiscover kwamba gari imemshinda, aliruka kutoka kwa gari na akaaja abiria, na abiria wamekufa na wengine wameumia.
Dereva wenzangu ambao tunaendesha magari, tuhakikishe kama umepepa uzito, hakikisha mahali fulani unakuja kwa njia utaratibu. Jambo la pili ni kwamba magari hizi zingine ambazo ziko zinaendelea, lazima derevas, kama dereva umechoka, tafadhali simamisha gari, lala. Uweze kuweka matuta ya barabara pale juu, na serikali kuje kuweza kuangalia, walete engineers ambao wanaweza kuangalia na kunyorosha barabara hii, kwa sababu kwa muda mfupi ambao umepita tumeweza kushuhudia ajali mbaya sana. Hii karibu ni ajali ya 5 karibu chini ya miezi 4.
And indeed, be careful on the roads during this festive season. Tension is high in Osutua village in Nkoben, Narok South, after local forest guards shot and killed 1 person and wounded 3 others in the area after a confrontation over trespass. Our reporter Isaac Famba has prepared the following story.
In response to a report from the Department of Forest, the officers were on patrol when they found 12 livestock, including sheep and goats, which were grazing in the forest against the law. However, efforts to impound the livestock hit a wall after an irate mob swarmed the officers, leading to confrontation in which shots were fired.
Jeriot alipoteza maisha yake kupitia njia yenye haieleweki kwa sababu mahali alipigwa risasi ni boma yake, na kutoka boma yake mpaka mahali inaitwa misitu ni almost a kilometer.
Walikuja kama raia na walikuwa wanatembea na mbuzi, wakaingia kwa shamba ya huyu mtu ambaye aliuawa anaitwa Edwin Koskei, na mimi nikafuata, nikauliza hii mbuzi mnapeleka wapi? Nikashika hiyo mbuzi, nikawaambia mtu waachie mbuzi. Kustukia nyuma yangu wanapiga bunduki mtu mwenye hiyo maragwe.
Following this turn of events, the locals led by nominated MCA in Narok County Assembly Jefferson Langat heavily criticized the conduct of the officers, alleging that the deceased protester did not have any weapon in hand during the incident.
Tunaambiwa ya kwamba huyo kijana Jeriot alipiga makoti akamwambia, sikuwa nimejua nyinyi ni officers, msiniue. Badala ya kushika na kufunga kama alikuwa na hatia, akambika risasi ya hapa, ikatokezea hapa nyuma. Alikuwa amepiga makoti hivi, risasi ikapita hapa.
The locals have now given an ultimatum of 2 weeks for the legal action to be taken against the responsible officers, or else more protests are to be expected in the area.
Tunapatia hawa wiki ngapi? Tusikia watu wamekanyaka sanduku ya kotini. Kama watakanyaka sanduku ya kotini, we will mobilize our people. Tushike matawi. Sisi wenyewe tuende kotini. Si ni kweli?
Isaac Famba, TV47.
Thank you, Isaac. A call has been issued to the residents of Turkana County to come and donate blood at Lodwar County Referral Hospital, as the facility is now facing a major blood shortage that has caused blood to be brought from another county. Our reporter from Turkana, Kitio Mika, has the details.
This is Lodwar County Referral Hospital, a hospital that people from Uganda, South Sudan, Ethiopia and neighboring counties are depending on. According to the blood bank laboratory manager at the Lodwar Referral Hospital, Edward Mutebi, there is a shortage of blood, a situation he has called a threat to the profession of health services.
Kwa sasa kuna uhaba wa damu kote nchini na hasa hapa Turkana. Tuko na wamama wajawazito ambao wako pale hospitalini wanahitaji damu wanapopitia upasuaji. Watoto wadogo, kwa saa hizi malaria imeongezeka sana. Malaria inasababisha upungufu wa damu mwilini, na hao ni baadhi ya wale wanaohitaji damu tunawatafutia.
Lodwar County Referral Hospital receives patients from Uganda, South Sudan and Ethiopia due to frequent attacks by bandits who all need blood transfusion. James Kidalio is the deputy director of the Lodwar County Referral Hospital.
It serves neighboring countries like South Sudan, Ethiopia and Uganda. We do really need blood, extra blood. We have cattle rustling and banditry incidences along our borders where we need blood for surgeries to replace blood.
Due to this blood shortage, residents have been advised to visit this referral hospital in Lodwar and donate blood without fear to save lives.
Ule mtu ambaye anataka kutoa damu anaweza tembelea blood bank iko nyuma ya pharmacy Lodwar County Referral Hospital. Hiyo blood bank ina operate working hours kama kawaida, na kazi yetu kubwa ni kuweka damu.
Tunatoa wito kwa wananchi wote popote walipo katika kaunti ya Turkana wakajitokeze kwa wingi ili tukaweze kupata damu ya kutosha, ili tunapoenda msimu wa Krismasi na sherehe za mwaka mpya kituo chetu kiwe na damu ya kutosha.
Kitio Mika, TV47, Lodwar in Turkana County.
The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, that is IEBC, and the National Land Commission, NLC, will visit Sondu at the border of Kericho and Kisumu counties to determine the boundary matter, which has been one of the causes of recurring conflicts in the area. This is according to NCIC Chairman Dr. Samuel Kobia, who says the two commissions will work on the matter since investigations have shown that there are conflicting maps on the area, lending credence to the reasons given by each side of the conflict. Reverend Kobia, speaking at Sondu after meeting with area elders, further reveals that intergenerational dialogue will also be facilitated between the two communities, leading to the signings of a peace pact and the symbolic building of a peace monument witnessed by political leaders from both sides. The presence of GSU officers who have been stationed in the area has helped maintain calm as part of existing, with many efforts put in place by different agencies. Conflicts have been recurring in the area, with the county government of Kisumu being accused of crossing the border to collect revenue on the side of Kericho County.
The questions we have been asking is what really are the root causes of conflicts in Sondu. And the people have been talking a lot about boundaries, that there are disputes and there are conflicting even maps that people on either side have, which they claim to be the boundaries and are disputed by others. So one of the things we have agreed to do is to find a way of establishing the boundary. And everybody has agreed that once that boundary has been established by the authorized competent agencies of government. And that is why we are now working with the National Lands Commission and with the IEBC so that we will have a time when they will come to Sondu and we have a public gathering where now it will be determined that this is where the border is and the boundary is, and it will be agreed by everyone. So that's one area we have agreed, and the governors of Kisumu and Kericho have also agreed to that.
And wait to see how that plays out. The Cabinet Secretary of Roads and Transport, Onesmus Kipchumba Murkomen, has urged all road users, especially those using private vehicles, to be extra careful when using the roads during this festive season. He added that a majority of the road accidents have occurred during the weekends when drivers drink excessive alcohol, and therefore urged on the need to observe traffic laws. Speaking during the launch of Usalama Barabarani campaign by the National Transport and Safety Authority (NTSA), the president of the Matatu Association, Alex Karagasha, urged the government to provide specialized training for Matatu drivers in a bid to reduce road carnages.
I call upon all of us Kenyans to take a personal responsibility for the choices we make while on the roads, minimize the motivation behind risky road behavior. Accidents happen particularly around the towns and cities are between Friday evening and Monday morning. And all of them, or most of them, are related to drunk drivers. Also private vehicles are, most of them, the ones who are knocking pedestrians.
And going forward, we've urged the government that we must have a PSV training school so that going forward, it will help in terms of training the drivers.
But we urge Kenyans to take care, to be safe. The speed that thrills is actually the speed that kills. Avoid overtaking. Bodabodas especially, imagine you, musiwe na haraka, wanakuanga na haraka sana. They are very impatient. We are urging them to take time.
And indeed, be extra careful during this festive season. Arrive alive. The county is affected by floods caused by heavy downpour that continues to wreak havoc in the country, are calling on the government and other non-governmental organizations to help them control the situation. Tana River County Governor Dado Godana now says more than 10,000 families have been rendered homeless in the entire county after River Tana burst its banks. One more person was earlier today reported to have died from cholera caused by higher levels of water, bringing the total number of people who lost their lives caused by floods in the area to 7. The county chief says he has used a total of 50% of county emergency funds, and to deal with disasters like these, he would need more than 2 billion shillings. He asked the government to solve the epidemic by moving residents to higher safe areas and rebuilding schools, hospitals and other necessities in safe areas.
We need, now that they have moved up there, to do something up there so that the schooling can continue, learning can continue up there. But the moment we leave them, January, they'll be looking for schools to go. And we have also wanted to make public the Tana River Disaster Risk Management Fund account, which is in KCB Hola branch, account number 12903968009. Of course, the pay bill for KCB is 522522. So that any person who wishes to donate materials in terms of building materials, in terms of shelter, in terms of water storage, in terms of food aid, The committee is already available to receive the materials, and also the account is available for anybody who wants to donate money direct to the account.
President William Ruto now says he is in favor of devolution in the country since it fosters localized development, asserting that maintaining intergovernmental cooperation is essential to guaranteeing the nation's progress. The head of state earlier today chaired a national and county governments summit at State House, Nairobi, attended by Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, the Council of Governors Chairperson Anne Waiguru, and Attorney General Justin Muturi, and the governors of the 47 counties.
As a force of national good. My support for devolution, therefore, anchored on the understanding that the flourishing of our grassroots is a precondition to national economic transformation, and that bottom-up sharing of duties and benefits, obligations and rights is the fundamental common denominator of both the devolved system of governance and our bottom-up economic transformation agenda.
Request that when the national government comes up with revenue collection measures, when they are being criticized, you don't partake, you don't join in that argument, because you depend on the same amount of money, and all the discussion we discuss with you as governors is how to increase your funding.
That on county industrial and aggregation parks, every county government shall sign all the necessary intergovernmental agreements with the National Treasury within the next 14 days to activate the disbursement of the allocated national government counterpart funding to the county governments.
To the Form 1 placement debate, and all Form 1 students will report to their various secondary schools from the 15th of January 2024. Speaking during the release of the 2024 Form 1 selection exercise in Lenana School, Education Cabinet Secretary Ezekiel Machogo said all candidates who scored 400 marks and above were placed in either national or extra-county school of their choice, while all other candidates were placed in county or sub-county schools. Kabianga High School was the most sought-after school in this year's selection exercise, as Andrin Kilemi now reports.
All eligible 2023 KCPE examination candidates were placed in various public secondary schools during the release of the 2024 Form 1 selection and placement results. Speaking at the event, Education Cabinet Secretary Ezekiel Machogu said candidates were placed largely based on merit and choice. However, a few candidates from counties with inadequate capacity were placed in schools of equivalent standing outside their counties.
The President also considered the Chiputi Declaration of 2017 on regional refugee education and placed learners from primary schools located within the refugee camps. Boys, those admitted to national schools were 22,051. Girls admitted to our national schools were 20,876. The total admitted to our national schools is 42,927. Some learners with special needs were placed either in regular or special needs schools based on their disability categories, merit, and choice.
A total of 28,052 candidates did not make choices of schools in various categories, despite having performed well enough. Their numbers include 222 candidates who had qualified for national schools, 4,837 for extra county schools, 8,716 for county schools, and 14,277 for sub-county schools. Among these were 683 candidates from Mwanjohi sub-county in Nyandarua and 330 from Kopsiro sub-county in Bungoma County. This year, the number of KCPE candidates rose by about 180,000 to an all-high time of 1.4 million candidates. This surge was attributed to the fact that this was the last class of the 844 system, consequently creating a placement challenge. It emerged that some schools received overwhelming requests as compared to their capacity. Kabianga High School, for example, was selected by a total of 186,357 candidates, whereas it has a capacity of 672 students only. The same scenario was witnessed at Nanyuki High School, whereby 158,741 candidates applied to be absorbed in the school, which has a capacity of 480 only. Other schools that topped the list of most selected schools this year include Pangani Girls, Kapsabet Boys, Alliance Girls High School, Maseno School, Nakuru High School, Butere High School, Mangu High School, and Alliance High School. Andrin Kilemi, TV47.
Thank you, Andrin, for that. This is a TV47 Sports News with QBet, giving you a chance to claim exclusive rewards like Mbuzi Airtime, cooking oil, bus fare, and other prizes. There is also a fully expenses-paid trip to Mombasa Beach Hotel. To participate, send the word Flight 47 to 24550 and you stand a chance to win amazing prizes.
TV40.
Wanasema wasemao kuwa elimu ni bahari haiishi kwa kuchotwa. Wakati mwingi natangamana na wanafunzi madarasani, sio kama mwalimu bali kama nahodha kwenye kipindi cha tasnia ya elimu. Na iwapo utanikosa madarasani, basi utanipata nyanjani nikisaka habari zenye usawa, ufasaha na ukweli. Na iwapo utanikosa nyanjani, bila shaka utanipata studioni hapa nikisoma habari na kuendesha mijadala mikomavu. Mimi ni Andrin Kilemi, mpenzi wa lugha ya Kiswahili na elimu kwa jumla.
They say money makes the world go round. So let's slow things down a bit. Put things in perspective. From the markets to the streets to the stocks, we make the complex comprehensible. Join me, Hibak Said, on TV47 Business News for market insights like never before.
What's making the headlines? What does it mean to you? How does it affect you? We answer all these questions every Sunday for half an hour on To The Point Show. Hey, I'm Grace Kuriakanja, and a lot has happened this week. Let's dive into it.
The news that matters the most is the one that hits close to home. When disasters strike, we are there to inform you. When the bullets are flying, we tell you who's shooting and why. Reporting on your victories, your health, your money, your security, your past, present, and future. We are interested in telling the stories of creativity, hard work, and resilience that you are known for.
That is our job. This is my job. My name is Victor Moyakane, and it's my honor to bring you this news this way every Thursday night on the home of Untold Stories.
Katika majengo haya, hapa ndipo sheria zinapotungwa na zinapopakuliwa. Nitakuletea viongozi mbalimbali, mirengo mbalimbali, wote kwa pamoja wakipika na kupakua. Tutawapa nafasi kuweza kuangazia changamoto na mafanikio ya ugatuzi katika ukumbi wa siasa kila siku ya Jumanne kuanzia saa 1 kamili na kuendelea.
kutoka eneo hili la Naivasha kwenye kaunti 032, gatuzi la Nakuru.
Kutoka kaunti ya Elgeyo Marakwet, kaunti 028.
Nikiripotia runinga ya TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Wajir.
Nikiripotia TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Turkana.
Kwa matukio yote yanayojiri katika kaunti hii 012.
Kutoka kaunti nambari 1, kaunti ya Mombasa.
Nikiripotia TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Lamu.
Nikiripotia TV47.
Nikiripotia TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Machakos.
Kutoka kaunti hii ya Trans Nzoia.
Kaunti 038.
Kutoka gatuzi nambari 029, kaunti ya Nandi, chemichemi ya mabingwa.
Nikiripotia TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Kakamega.
Itakuwa nikiripotia runinga ya TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Bungoma.
Jina langu ni Paula Munio.
Willy Dennis Jiru.
Fabian Kibet.
Mimi ni Hashim Jimal.
Mimi ni Kitio Mika Masai.
John Javakiania.
Jina langu ni Abdulaziz Nameka.
Mimi ni Kombo Alfayo.
Jina langu ni Nicholas Mbai.
Isaac Famba.
Mimi ni Wanji Sosti.
Jina langu ni Arnold Adidi.
Jina langu ni Chris Bet.
Jina langu ni Violet Auma.
Na TV47 inapotamba, mimi Sheila Chelangat nitakuwa nikiripotia maswala yanayokuhusu wewe kila kuchao. Every Thursday 7:30 p.m. unapata nafasi kufahamu viongozi mbalimbali kutoka humu nchini, kuanzia wabunge.
Through Changa, we could get money to pay our rent, pay our bills.
When I was growing up, water was a problem where I was born and bred. We wake up at 3 to go and look for water.
Magavana
must be ready to be a tough woman and not a woman to be walked over.
Kwa hivyo
but you respect people.
Dari ya mfahamu kiongozi, story na historia, na mi Elizabeth Mutuku.
Well, if it is happening, then we are definitely talking about it on TV47's Disruptive Friday. Don't miss a moment on the most technological and disruptive moment on TV.
From groundbreaking AI breakthroughs to the latest ingenious innovations, we have it all covered for you. Get ready to see the future unfold right in front of your eyes. My name is Eric Munene.
And my name is Linda Alala, and we not promise nothing short of great news experience.
The thing about coffee is it means different things to different people.
To some, it is what gets them going every day. The ability to transform groggy mornings into vibrant beginnings.
To others, it is a fuel that drives them through the day. The thing about coffee is that we like it differently. I love mine with a little bit of a sweetener.
And I love mine strong.
For me, the darker, the better.
The thing about coffee is it gives a platform for sharing news and reviews.
The best opportunity for a great conversation.
It is the perfect way to kickstart your day. And here, we serve it hot.
Let Kids on the Block take you to the most fantastic place on television. Where anything can happen.
Today I have an interesting story about the lion and the mouse. Today we are going to prepare
mug cake. We are having Hilda. We're gonna be making this worm, and it's a bookmark.
Catch Kids on the Block every Saturday at 9 a.m.
Everyone is obsessed with property. But when should you buy? How do you know you're getting a good deal? And is there ever a good time to sell?
You never go wrong with real estate.
Go wrong on paint, when you go wrong on lighting, that's it, you're done. But when you go right on painting and the paintwork, and you go right to the lighting, it depends also with the setup. So you can do a lot of lighting at a wrong setup.
Now the county government comes in and says that you have developed in a place that you should not go this way, and the county decides to demolish.
Right.
Where do you rent?
On The Realtor, we don't just showcase the latest properties, we also focus on topics affecting the real estate industry so you know what to do and when to do it. Catch The Realtor every Tuesday at 6:30 p.m.
It is exactly 35 minutes past the hour. We thank you so much for watching TV47, the Daily Report, right here on TV47, the home of untold stories. You caught me going through some of your feedback, and right here on the Daily Report every Monday, as you were aware, since July this year, we bring you the Power and Politics segment, one that brings to, rather we intend to, where we endeavor to bring you power shapers as well as captains of industry, as well as politicians, governors, cabinet secretaries. This year, we had quite some guests on the program. Remember, this is the second last Monday of the month, which happens to be the last Monday of the broadcast, that is the Daily Report. We shall be taking a break. When we resume in January, a much bigger and better Daily Report will be coming your way every Monday. But this year, we've also been able to speak to some individuals, especially as we begin with that recap, the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, that is Karim Khan King's Counsel. He was in the country earlier in the year to be awarded an honoris causa degree by the Mount Kenya University. I had a sit down with him, and he forms part of the first segment of the recap of the Daily Report Power and Politics segment. Take a look. Hello there. We want to welcome you to this one-on-one exclusive and candid conversation with the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, that is the ICC, Karim Khan, who joins us for this candid conversation on TV47. Thank you so much, prosecutor, for joining us.
George, thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be sitting down with you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And first of all, most Kenyans will remember you, of course, during your time as the defense lawyer in the Kenyan case. And they could be wondering what brings you to Kenya this time. So what's up?
Well, I love Kenya. Firstly, I think when I go to a country and I live in a country, one must be rather heartless if you don't build bonds of affinity with the people of a country, and this is certainly the case in Kenya. But I've been honoured by Mount Kenya University that tomorrow there's a convocation in which the students of Mount Kenya University are graduating, and the Chancellor and the Chairman and the board have been exceptionally generous and have decided to confer on me an honorary doctorate. And so it was a good opportunity to come to accept that and say a few words about the role of justice in the ICC. And that's why I'm here.
Brilliant. How does that make you feel?
Well, humbled. I mean, it shows the greatness of Kenya. I don't have the honor of being an African by nationality. I don't have the honor of holding a Kenyan passport. And yet they've been so generous to honor me as an outsider. And I think this is one of the very great qualities of Kenyans. They have very big hearts. And this is something I've seen in all parts of Kenya. People, every time I've been here, and I've lived here in this country, I've been all over this wonderful land. People from all communities have been invariably kind and generous to me. And this is why it's a wonderful opportunity to come back.
Indeed. And, you know, most of your interaction with Kenyans back then was in the defense. You're now prosecutor, the prosecutor of the ICC. How was that twist, first of all, for you as a person?
Well, for me, it's a different challenge, but it's not a really abrupt change because I started off in England as a prosecuting lawyer. I was a senior Crown prosecutor. I was the first member of the English bar recruited to the Yugoslav tribunal back in 96, 97. And so in that system, we prosecute and we defend in the common law system. And always I try to act on the side of justice. So the main principle is that whether you're a judge or a prosecutor or a defense counsel, act with integrity, act with courage, and act with the realization you're a servant of something much bigger than yourself. It's an officer of the court. And I think if that principle is kept at the forefront of every lawyer's mind anywhere in the world, then the wheels of justice can move effectively and gain the confidence of people. And so it's been, of course, a transition to deal with the management side of the office, to try to reform the office, to bring about the necessary change that is needed. But it's an opportunity I went into with my eyes open, and we're making good progress, inshallah.
When talking about progress, the ICC issued arrest warrants against the president of Russia, that is Vladimir Putin, and that is something that, of course, came in as breaking news across the world. How is the ICC intending to effect this?
Well, the independent judges of the ICC reviewed the warrant application that I filed. They agreed with the assessment of the office that the standard of evidence was sufficient to issue a warrant, and so that warrant has the quality now of a judicial order. I'm trying my best, and I've given an undertaking, God willing, that we will not be bringing cases that are not strong. This is the time when we have to show international justice is not hot air and false promises. There's a foundation to it, and I believe there was a foundation to this application. It compelled me to move in the direction that I have, and now it's for us to make sure that we keep doing our job in all situations of the world, because every human life matters equally. In the last few weeks, I've been in Bangladesh because look at the plight of the Rohingya. I've been in the DRC. Look at the terrible suffering, 5 or different conflicts in one country of the DRC. I've been in Venezuela. I've been in Guatemala. I've been in Colombia. So we're not a one-situation court. We have to try to do better for people around the world that believe that their lives matter, because they do. And we have to talk less and deliver more. And I think that's the change I'm trying to bring about with the deputy prosecutors and the men and women of the office, an office that is trying to deliver in very concrete ways based upon strong evidence and thorough, rigorous, non-political investigations. And I think if we do that, we've done our job quite effectively.
Prosecutor, how would the arrest, say, of someone like Putin and other world leaders go about, or how does the ICC then? Because one would wonder, because the arrest warrant has been issued, but then how do you get them to arrest these said?
This is a wonderful topic that we could take hours about. I think for your viewers, let's just look at this. At the moment, of course, Russian Federation is a permanent member of the Security Council. These are very serious countries that have very respected places in the international community. I have great respect for the role of the Russian Federation as a founding member of the UN Charter, as a permanent member of the Security Council. But the law must apply as effectively as possible, as far as possible. And I think people that thought justice is impotent, we have examples. Look at Jean Kabanda next door in Rwanda. He was found guilty. He was a former prime minister. Look at Charles Taylor. People thought when he was the president of Liberia, he could never be arrested. He's in Durham prison in the United Kingdom. Look at Milosevic and Kradich and Mladic. There's many other examples. So look at Key Sampa in Cambodia. Our job is to try to work with states, realizing that the ICC is a court of last resort, that the basic principle is trials and justice is done at home, locally. That's what I prefer. Work with partnerships with countries, with regional organizations. But if there's no justice, if there is no determined effort to vindicate the rights of the most vulnerable, the youngest children, the most vulnerable boys and girls and women and men, the old and the sick, then international standards must try to apply in this very imperfect world as effectively as possible, and that's what we have to do. And then the enforcement, nothing is static. The world is orbiting, all the time around the sun. Planets are in constant momentum and movement. We do our job, and then we see what happens later on.
Prosecutor, talking about doing your job, you've been to several African countries, I believe, and a cry or a calling that has been made by most African leaders is that they feel targeted by the ICC. Does the Rome Statute provide a situation where it sort of quote unquote favors the West and quote unquote oppresses the African leaders because they have cried that they feel more targeted in the court?
There's a lot of noise that is generated in these discussions, and the challenge for your viewers and for all of us is to not get deviated by the noise, but to hear the truth of the situation. Now, as humanity, we are a work in progress. There is a simple reality that there are 5 great powers that hold vetoes in the United Nations. That's a fact. Kenya does not have a veto. Pakistan, India do not have vetoes. They're not even permanent members of the Council, and the list goes on. But within this imperfect, evolving system that we have, we need to apply the law, more effectively. Now, when it comes to Africa, look at where we are. I've opened investigations in Venezuela, in the Philippines. We're looking at the Islamic State, Khorasan, and Taliban in Afghanistan. I've applied for warrants that were issued in Georgia. We have an investigation, and judges have issued warrants in Ukraine. These are not African countries. And of course, the argument goes beyond that, because before Rwanda, before the Rwandan tribunal, we had the Yugoslav tribunal. These were not African countries. Cambodia is not an African country. And in the majority of situations that the court is active in the continent, they've been referred by the states themselves. There are these exceptions, the Article 15 prior motor powers that the previous prosecutors have used. But I think in my term already, we're trying to build more partnerships with Africa. I've been invited after a gap of 17 years to the last 2 African Union Heads of State summits in Addis Ababa. I've just come from the Association of Caribbean States in Guatemala with the GRULAC, the Latin American and Caribbean group. So we're trying to build partnerships everywhere, and I'm trying to create a dynamic in which it doesn't matter if it's me that's the prosecutor or it's the ICC's flag that's behind a judge. We have to find partnerships so the national authority can do better, and regional authorities, regional organizations, whether it's the East African Community or ECOWAS or any other organization, SADC, they can actually take their role as respected international entities to make sure that there's a greater protection for more of humanity from these worst violations, because what we're dealing with is not politics, actually. Everything is in a political environment, but which of your viewers would support or try to defend genocide or war crimes or crimes against humanity? This continent has felt it more than any other in recent times, because we just had the commemoration of the Rwandan genocide. That was next door. And in 100 days, 700,000-800,000 people were butchered. So these are African values. Rome Statute principles are African values, and I think this is also something we need to underline. The fight for justice, Kenya has a very important and proud role to applaud itself. Look at from independence. It was the fight, the struggle, the demand for equality. No white highlands anymore. No apartheid, no yoke of colonialism keeping people down, but a principle, as the US Constitution says, that we believe in these basic inalienable rights, that all men and women are created equal. And the Rome Statute system that now I have the responsibility of leading in terms of prosecution has to build these partnerships, and I think that's what we're trying to do.
Indeed. Then one would wonder the procedure of, one, protection of witnesses at the ICC, and secondly, procedure of collection of evidence, because you've said, for instance, for the Russian case, you want to come with a watertight case before the judges. If you could just explain in a nutshell the protection of witnesses at the ICC.
I have a fundamental responsibility, and as does the court, to ensure the protection of witnesses that are working with the court, and we have those protective measures. But this is, of course, in all situations, given that my basic premise that all human life matters equally in any part of the world, this is something that is as important for the Rohingya as for the people of Sudan, as for the people of Ukraine. When people speak the truth, they have a right not to be targeted with reprisals because they speak the truth, because they believe they own justice as much as anybody else. And I believe with them. I believe them on that issue. I find common cause with them on that because it's the truth. What I've said even before I became prosecutor is one needs to have a very close scrutiny about the quality of evidence you present. Before I apply for warrants, I will make sure that the assessment is that we have a reasonable prospect of conviction. There's been reports and there's been studies. It's nothing that's confidential. You know, the previous way was a lot of reliance on testimonial evidence. We now have many other data streams, your phone, Facebook, Twitter, satellites, different types of communication and evidence is available, and we need to ingest all of them. And that applies whether it's for the Rohingya or, you know, or Sudan, or whether it's for events taking place in real time in Ukraine. And this is something that law enforcement in Kenya also is dealing with. We're dealing with a very dynamic world with exponential change in the use of technology, and any investigator worth his or her salt and any prosecutor trying to bring the best evidence to the judges has to find a way to get access to the best evidence.
The situation in Sudan, Kenya has, of course, you know, expressed its views. Will the ICC be coming in to look at the situation in Sudan?
We are. We've been looking at the situation in Sudan, and my first mission as prosecutor was to Sudan. I met General Burhan and Hemeti, and also former Prime Minister Hamdok, because I met them before the coup. I signed new agreements, there were new promises. And after the coup of September 2021, of course, things have become much more difficult. The latest flare-up in violence is a matter of real concern. I gave my last report to the Security Council in New York last month, and I also made it very clear that whilst I do not want these Security Council referrals, the Sudan situation was referred by the Security Council in 2005. I don't know, were you at school in 2005? Huh? Still in school, can you imagine? And now a new generation are born, and they are encountering the suffering that their parents had encountered. And this is because of many things, but also because we brushed justice under the carpet. There wasn't a collective will to ensure Sudan cooperated with its international obligations. There was a failure, I think, of the Security Council that made the most consequential determination it can make, namely that the situation in Darfur represents a threat to international peace and security. But when those words were uttered and the ball was passed to the ICC, where was the enforcement? So I've said very clearly that I wanted, I don't want these investigations to be never-ending stories, but I briefed the council last month and I said, as long as leaders are so, unfortunately, and I'm very sad to say so, they seem so intent on writing further pages of misery and chapters of despair, I will keep looking at the situation, and I've put people on notice that we have jurisdiction in relation to the latest outbreak of hostilities, and we have to make sure we just don't talk. We have to deliver, and I'm trying to also deal with the resource issues to make sure that we can deliver more effectively, because the people of Sudan, the people of Kalma camp that I visited, 30,000 people, it's a very emotional scene when you go there. Kids that have been born in those refugee camps, wearing football shirts that are hand-me-downs from players like Balotelli. I don't suppose you even remember the name. You have to be probably my age. So imagine how many generations, 15, 16 years ago, they're wearing this in refugee camps, and they're still praying that the ICC will give justice. They're still believing the UN will deliver some just peace for them. And the reality, we've all failed. The AU has failed, the ICC has failed, the UN has failed. We need to find new ways, and Sudan has failed. Fundamentally, it's their basic responsibility. Sudan has let its own people down. We have to find a way.
Prosecutor, internationally, the Islamic State, the ISIS continues to, have its threads proceed, but also the ICC and you as a prosecutor have voiced your issues on this matter. What do you have to say about the ISIS, the ICC in itself?
Well, I had the honor, in 2018, I left a very comfortable private practice, and I was the founding special advisor to the Secretary General of the United Nations and the head of the UN team investigating Daesh, which is ISIL, which I call the most un-Islamic state. And I lived 3 years in Baghdad, and there were missile strikes, and it was a tough assignment. And I did so for really 2 reasons at least, more than that. Number one, I'm a Muslim. So I feel it's more incumbent upon me to make it clear this is completely contrary to Islam. Islam is a religion whose name is peace. Every greeting, even Kenyans, or I've met so many Kenyans, Jambo, but you also know, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. So Assalamu alaikum is peace upon you. And the other person will say, peace be upon you too. How can a religion whose name, whose greeting, and at the end of every prayer is salam, be a religion of hatred? So I felt I couldn't be in my comfort in my home, in one of my homes. I have to be there in Baghdad or in Mosul or in Sinjar with the Yazidis who have suffered so much, or with the Christians that have suffered so much, or with the Shia that have suffered so much. So we see this extremism is metastasizing like a cancer into the lymphatic system. I'm also investigating the Islamic State, Khorasan and Taliban. On a scale, they're also affiliates. They have the same ideology that your worth is defined by your religion, whether you, not even if you pray towards Kaaba, Qibla, but are you the right kind of Muslim? You look at the Sahel region, you look at Mali, you look at Niger, you look at West Africa, how ISIS is moving. In West Africa, look at Boko Haram, who did the allegiance to Baghdadi, the so-called caliph, the false caliph of the Islamic State. And look at Al-Shabaab, and you look at Islamic State even next door in Somalia. So we have to find common partnerships again. We need to work together, with all member states of the United Nations, with all state parties of the ICC, with regional organizations, and think imaginatively. Einstein said, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Let's find new solutions even to old problems. If we do that with sincerity, with fidelity, with partnerships, it may not be perfect, but I always say perfect very often is the enemy of the good. Let's try and be good. Let's try and be better. And to do that, we need conversations and we need to come together.
Finally, Prosecutor, you mentioned social media, earlier on in our conversation, and, Kenyans have tagged the ICC on several issues, especially since the last election. Have you received any requests?
And I said I will not touch on Kenya. I'm recused from that.
What is your outlook or, outline during your tenure as prosecutor? What do you want to achieve or to be remembered for during your tenure as the ICC?
My priority is to serve. In a blink of an eye, I'm going to be gone. And all of us will be gone. If we're lucky, we'll be buried and we'll meet our maker. So the obligation for all of us is to serve humanity. Whatever you are, whether you're a doctor or a lawyer, whether you're a cleaner, a teacher, a nurse, whatever you do, serve not as a grudge, but try to serve to improve things. What I would like is to serve better. I would like, of course, the office to be more respected. I'd like it to be more effective. I would like there to be more credibility in terms of the cases we bring and better results and more confidence from the victims and survivors that this is a court that is fit for purpose, that is moving from its in a new direction and much more open to partnerships and allergic to competitive relations with national authorities and regional organizations, but rather very open to embracing a collegiate approach to justice, because I think that's what people want. They don't care whether it's the flag of a nation state or a regional organization or the United Nations or the ICC. I think what people in refugee camps around the world, whether it's in Sudan or the DRC or in Palestine or in the Rohingyas or in Ukraine, what people want is a belief that we're not in it for ourselves. It's not all talk. It's not all false promises. And then we go in our air-conditioned vehicles or on our business class flights to another capital of the world, and we forget about them. So we need to improve ourselves, and we need to be focused on what impact are we giving collectively. Because I think this is a very big issue. Your last question, I think, is the most important. The international architecture that has been created since the Second World War has to reform itself and be seen to be fit for purpose. If things are not renovated, they decay. This is true in a house or in a hotel or in international institutions. They have to adapt to become relevant to the needs of the time. And the world we're in now, look at how advanced the Southern Hemisphere countries have been. So we need to work in this direction to make international architecture collectively deliver more for the people. And I think this requires an approach of collegiality, not empire building. The days of the Caesars of the world or the pharaohs of the world, thank goodness, those people should be in the pyramids if they're the pharaohs, or they should be interned somewhere else. This is our obligation to work much more as an international family, respecting independence of mandates, but showing the people who suffer the most and who have the least that we are in it for them, not in it for ourselves.
Thank you so much. We've been speaking to the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, ICC, Karim Khan, right here on TV47. We'll leave it there for now, but thank you so much, prosecutor, for joining us. That was the ICC prosecutor Karim Khan, part of the first recap of the interviews right here on the Daily Report. When we come back, we have more on the other side. I see your feedback coming in through our WhatsApp number. Karen saying, hey, TV47, getting you loud and clear from Naivasha. I am Karen. Thank you so much for watching. As well as on our SMS platform saying you're watching the show. Please include your name and where you're watching us from. We'll be back in a few minutes. Do stay with us.
Wanasema wasemao kuwa elimu ni bahari haiishi kwa kuchotwa. Wakati mwingi natangamana na wanafunzi madarasani, sio kama mwalimu bali kama nahodha kwenye kipindi cha tasnia ya elimu. Na iwapo utanikosa madarasani, basi utanipata nyanjani nikisaka habari zenye usawa, ufasaha na ukweli. Na iwapo utanikosa nyanjani, bila shaka utanipata studioni, hapa nikisoma habari na kuendesha mijadala mikomavu. Mimi ni Andrin Kilemi, mpenzi wa lugha ya Kiswahili na elimu kwa jumla.
They say money makes the world go round. So let's slow things down a bit. Put things in perspective. From the markets to the streets to the stocks, we make the complex comprehensible. Join me, Hibak Saeed, on TV47 Business News for market insights like never before.
What's making the headlines? What does it mean to you? How does it affect you? We answer all these questions every Sunday for half an hour on To The Point Show. Hey, I'm Grace Kuriakanja, and a lot has happened this week. Let's dive into it.
The news that matters the most is the one that hits close to home. When disasters strike, we are there to inform you. When the bullets are flying, we tell you who's shooting and why. Reporting on your victories, your health, your money, your security, your...
Thank you for watching the Daily Report. It is exactly 4 minutes past 10 p.m. right here in Nairobi, Kenya. On the Daily Report, the Power and Politics segment, which comes to you every Monday with me, George Maringa. It's a forum where we hold power, rather those in power, to account, and also those who hold positions of leadership. Apart from Karim Khan, this year we also spoke to the chairperson of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, just about 4 months since he was appointed to that position by President William Ruto. The chairman, that is Dr. David Oginde, speaks about the advocation of the EACC, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, to be granted prosecutorial powers. What exactly does he mean? Find out in this recap of that interview with Dr. David Oginde, the bishop, a former bishop, who is also the chairperson, the current chairperson of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, EACC. Take a look. Well, hello there. Thank you so much for watching TV47. We want to welcome you to this one-on-one conversation and interview with the chairperson, the chairman of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, that is EACC, Dr. David Oginde. Thank you so much, Chairman, for joining us.
Thank you.
So, I mean, it's a lot to discuss at the sidelines, of your 100 days in office. But I'll begin by finding out what inspired you to take up this position, and perhaps what was your vision for the commission back then?
The passion for a just society, and a society that runs on integrity and ethics, is something that has captured my heart and attention for a very long time. If you have followed some of my activities and writings, I've commented on this over the years. And so when this opportunity came up, with the encouragement of friends, I never thought that I would really be here, but several people say, this seems to be your area of passion, this is something you talk about a lot, why don't you go and do something about it? Cut long story short, I ended up putting in my application, and here I am today.
Were you surprised, or what was your reaction when you was appointed?
It was, in a sense, a surprise because, like I said, it is not something that last year I'd even thought about, Yeah. So when it came, and then with the encouragement of friends and some in senior places, I thought, let me try. And I checked the list of those people who had applied, and I saw people there who I thought could do the job perhaps better than I could. People who have been in these areas and circles. But when you go in for something, you just try. So there's a sense in which it was a surprise, but there's a sense in which it was not. Because when you go in, you are expecting that you should be shortlisted. I didn't want to go there and then miss it.
Okay.
So I was pleasantly surprised.
So we are shortly, just about 137 days into your tenure as chairman of the commission. When you first came in, you were an outsider back then. You're now an insider.
Right.
Perhaps what are some of the, in a nutshell, some of the, surprises or things that shocked you, things that have pleased you, and perhaps even the disappointments you may have seen so far?
Yes, from outside, you see mainly what the media brings out. And I realized that whereas I had that perception that corruption was really bad in the country, I didn't know the extent to it until I came in here. And now coming here, what has been of great surprise and shock, I would say, is just the extent and levels of corruption within the country. We receive thousands of reports on a daily, not on a yearly basis. Even just this morning, I was reading several reports of people who are complaining of corruption in their areas where they are, some of them big ones. And so you find that with all that information, it's like corruption is everywhere. It is very pervasive. And then the levels of corruption was another shock, that people are not stealing small monies. They are really stealing big monies. And there's a level of impunity, there's a level of greed, because the amounts that are involved are just mind-boggling. It's not the kind of monies that I was ever used to hearing, leave alone handling, in my previous life. The third was the kind of people involved, the shock of the people involved. Some people that I know and that I respect or I have respected. And then now I come here and their files come to my desk for processing. And I'm like, even so-and-so, you know, it's a big shock. It's a big surprise when you receive files with the clear evidence and pointers that indeed something may have happened here. And these are people that you know, people that you respect. So it undermines that confidence on individuals. Some people who speak very loudly against corruption in this country. And I'm listening to them, and I know that we are investigating a matter that they are involved in. So those were my major surprises, negative surprises. On the positive side, I would say the impression I had was that EACC was not doing as much as it should be doing.
And that had been a concern in the country.
That has been, it still is a concern even now. But now being on this other side, I find a team of people who really work hard and who are really serious about what they do. I sit in meetings where we are reviewing cases and our officers who are making presentations. You see that really some good work has been done. So it's just that what we are dealing with is so big, it is so vast, and our numbers are so small in comparison. So even the much that we are doing looks very little in the eyes of the public. But I can say that I was pleasantly surprised at how hard the officers of EACC really work. Yeah.
And you've just mentioned the amounts that you're seeing. I mean, they're at a scale that you had not comprehended. Perhaps, what are some of the figures that you could be talking about, or you could be coming in contact with when you're sitting and going through the reports?
We are talking about tens of billions that people have diverted. One of the cases that I've talked about and was for me the greatest, perhaps the greatest shock, was a project that was budgeted for 18 billion, but was revised to 87. Now, there is even no percentage you talk about there. It's mind-boggling. And I say, even if it was revised to 20 billion, that would still be 2 billion that is stolen. A lot of money. But 87, that is impunity. That is audacity, I would say. So those kinds of monies, talking about just, I got one day, we were sitting in a review of cases, and we go one by one, as they're presented to us as a commission, so that we approve them for further processing. And so we had gone through all these big billions. About 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we are all tired, and there are still cases to consider. And so this case comes up, and the presenter says, here's a case where we are looking at somebody who has diverted about 500 million. And I'm thinking in my mind, why are you wasting our time with small monies, you know? You know,
because of the amounts.
Because the amounts that we have been dealing with. Now 500 million sounds very small. 500 million is a lot of money. It's a lot of money, but it shows you how the mind can be corrupted. My mind had actually been corrupted with all these billions that we have been dealing with, to the extent that you begin to think that 500 million is small money and we shouldn't be spending time. And yet you realize that we deal with reports of as little as 200 shillings, that somebody is complaining, a police officer, a chief has taken from them, and they want EACC to act on it. So you're ranging from this very little money to billions of shillings. It's just sometimes confusing. Yeah.
Okay. And so when you look at these, the figures, the billions that are coming in, the hundreds of millions, one would wonder then, this is money that has been diverted, and perhaps it has taken X amount of time. Its recovery or even recouping it back and perhaps bringing the culprits to book does not seem to be a process that takes an equal amount of time. So how detrimental is such activity to the public?
Yeah, the big corruption, part of the reason, something that again for me was something that I got to learn. We wonder why corruption cases take so long. But I got to learn and appreciate that big corruption is very carefully designed. If you think, for example, Anglo leasing, which at that time, 5 billion, 6 billion was a lot of money. I mean, people couldn't even imagine it. How can somebody steal that kind of money? Yeah. Now we are talking of tens of billions, which just go like that. But these kinds of corruption cases are very well designed. You remember Anglo leasing up to now has never been unraveled. You trace it, and it disappears into thin air somewhere. They are very, very carefully designed. And so for us to be able to unravel them and get to the place where we can prosecute those particular individuals involved, it takes quite a bit of time. It requires a lot of intelligence, it requires a lot of investigation, analysis of data, really to be at that place where you are confident that this case can stand in court. So that is part of the reason that it takes a very long time. Just the investigation process to the point where you are ready to take a matter to court can take several months, if not years, for the big cases. The small cases usually are easier, they are more straightforward. Collecting evidence sometimes is not as difficult, and therefore you find that we are able to turn this over much faster. Gives the impression that EACC is only interested in the small fish, as we call them. But it's because the small fish are easier to catch.
And I wanted to, you brought up the issue of small fish and big fish. Yes. What happens if you could just, explain to Kenyans, because the small fish, yes, you've said before, the fish, even in essence, true essence, are easier to catch. But at the same time, perhaps you can net and end up getting a bigger fish, once in a while.
Yes, and we do. We do get the big fish, and we do take them for prosecution. But like I said, because of the monies involved, these cases can drag on for a very long time. So even to get a conviction is not easy. First of all, there are possibilities that they could continue to interfere with the case in the process, because the monies they have are the kind that even you as a media person, if they tell you, don't report this, you can be silenced. You just look on the other side. So even though perhaps we have worked very hard, but the media is not reporting it because they too have been helped not to speak. I'm not saying that's what happened, but sometimes it does happen. So a lot could be going on in the background, but the public has no idea. You could be shouting, thief, thief, but you have been muffled. So even your neighbors can't come to your rescue. So these are the complications that we have. But we do forward cases. Just recently, we forwarded what is really a big case to the DPP on the Turkana wind power project, which involves billions of shillings. I don't know that the media gave it the level of coverage that is worthy of that kind of a case. But they're there, several that I can mention. Yeah.
All right. And so, when you speak about, the role of the EACC, when you go back to the mandate, does it feel that the commission is perhaps constrained in the current mandate, so much so that then there would need to be a review of what the commission can do? Because you forward cases, you recommend to the DPP, the Director of Public Prosecutions is the only office that perhaps can, that can charge. But perhaps is it important that the EACC is strengthened more so that then whatever you're able to investigate and net, you proceed with it to court?
This is a matter that personally have raised right from the time of my vetting, because from just an outsider, I thought that normally in Q theory, because of my leadership background, the more checkpoints you put within a process, the slower the process. So normally you want a process, for it to be efficient, to have as few checkpoints as possible. So if you have a process that takes 10 checkpoints, this one has to check, and another one has to check, and another one has to check, and another one has to check, that process will be very long. That's what we call bureaucracy, If there are only 2 checkpoints, it reduces that time. If it is only 1 checkpoint, it is reduced even further. If there is no checkpoint, that's why where one person is making a decision is more efficient, because it is you make the decision, the matter is finished. But because we want checks and balances, we put in a second person who can check just to make sure that everything is fine. So 1 checkpoint. But if you don't trust even that other person, you add in another one. That continues to reduce the levels of efficiency. And it is in this context that we have been saying, because of the extent of the levels of corruption in this country, the number of cases that we have to deal with, then apart from that, the crime court. So you can imagine the whole country, all these are channeling to just one place. So it reduces the efficiency. Even if that office was working as best as they could, the workload alone is more than they could possibly handle. I compare it with Thika Road. Thika Road, we have how many lanes? It's a huge road, highway, super highway. But get to Ngara, it is narrowed down to very small roads. So you find, therefore, that the efficiency of that road is greatly undermined because there is nowhere where those cars can go to. So you find this traffic jam that is on Thika Superhighway in the mornings is just unimaginable. Why? Not because the road is not efficient, but because where all these cars are pouring into, there is no outlet that is equivalent that can move the vehicles efficiently. And that is what is happening to us with criminal prosecution, that every criminal prosecution has to go through the office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. And therefore, the backlog, the inefficiencies that are there. So we are saying, if we create another lane that can then deal with specific economic crimes, that would perhaps reduce the clogging that is there. The court, as the judiciary, has attempted to do that, where they have designated certain courts to just deal with corruption cases. That greatly helped compared to previously where they went to any court. But now, because there are specific courts that deal with corruption cases, there is a level of efficiency. And if we could increase such courts, I think we could see more output in that. So that is where we are asking, can the law either be amended to give EACC prosecutorial powers so that our cases are processed? In any case, they are going to go to court. It's the court that is going to determine the merit of a case. So it's not like we are going to take somebody directly to prison. The court, the judges and the magistrates are still going to look at the evidence we provide and make up their minds whether indeed there was a crime that was committed. So we don't see that fear that people have that if EACC is given the powers, they will abuse it and so on, because it can be abused at any level. So, but we think it can provide some level of efficiency.
And so at the current state, does EACC have the required capacity to effectively take up the high magnitude of graft in the country? And then to cure that, as you add prosecutorial powers to the mandate of the commission, would that need then to be added on to capacity of the commission as well?
Of course, responsibility comes with capacity. So that if we are given that responsibility, we would equally be given the capacity to do so. But even as it is now, for example, when we deal with issues like asset recoveries, those are civil cases. So they don't have to go through the office of the director of prosecution. We take them straight to court. And there's a sense in which we have been more successful on those cases than on the criminal ones. Partly because we go directly to court, and so any case we have investigated, we have our evidence, it is faster to process it through court. The second is that the way of prosecution, of course, is slightly different. In the case of criminal cases, the burden of proof lies on us to show that this person actually committed an offense. On the civil ones, the burden of proof lies on the other person to prove that indeed this is your property or this is your wealth and this is how you generated it. So it is you to show to us and prove to us that you legitimately own this property or you legitimately earned this wealth that you have. So it makes the process a little more efficient, and we have been more successful in that area.
When you look at the coordination between government and the arms of government and the commission, specifically the executive, are you feeling, the support from government, as it were, regarding the fight against corruption? You've come in at a time that the government has, recently, even the president, all the way to other officials saying they will take corruption head on. Do you feel apart from the words, that in action, this is something that you're also feeling as the commission?
Yes, even if it is just the words, that is still good, because a word from the president saying, I am against corruption, gives an agency like ours the confidence, so that if, say, for example, a CS or a PS or a senior government official is suspected to be engaged in corruption, it is much easier. We are not saying that it is the only way that we can go to them, but it is much easier because they know that even the president has spoken on this. So they can't run back and hide behind that. So it makes it easier for our work, and we feel at this point that, yes, there's that goodwill which we are certainly taking advantage of.
Yeah, and then the head of public service, I think just a few days ago, said that, and I quote, the corruption in public service is at an industrial scale. Perhaps, how does that make you feel?
From where I sit, it's not news. Like I said, if I was out there, I would have said, oh my, how can you even say that? But from where I sit, I can only say yes, it is true.
It is true.
Yeah.
And indeed, that's all we had the time for right here on the Daily Report, the recap of the year that has been 2023. We want to thank you so much for always keeping it TV47 every Monday from 9 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. with me, George Maringa, as you delve on matters, power and politics. Among those interviews that we held this year was with Karim Khan, as we showed you earlier on, as well as the chairperson of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. Your feedback, keep it coming. The conversation continues online. Right from my colleagues and I want to wish you a wonderful festive season. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I will be seeing you on Monday Daily Report come the 8th of January. That is next year in about 2 weeks or so. But of course,